Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have a really exciting interview ahead of us about working in your passion project career later in life as an actress. Today, you'll be meeting Laura Doman, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who works on camera in film, TV, commercials, industrials, and print, and in voiceover for commercials and corporate and creative projects. So much fun. Welcome to the show, Laura. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, hi, Suzy. Thank you so much for letting me be here. This is going to be so exciting.
Oh my gosh, I know. And as a listener of the podcast, you're not seeing what I'm seeing, but Laura looks so fancy over there with all of her technology, and she makes my technology look pathetic.
Oh,
it's so good. Anyway, I know we're going to have a great conversation about your midlife entrepreneur story. We're going to be talking about your business and what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way to some extent and might be challenging for you a little bit in your life as well as being a business owner. So let's kick things off. You know that on this podcast, we talk about age. So let's start with how old you are, how long you've been an entrepreneur, and a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. Take it away.
absolutely. Well, in about a month, I'm going to have my Beatles birthday. And if anybody doesn't know quite what that is, like, bum, 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 bum. Yep, I'm 63. I'm going to be turning 64, which kind
I
of
love that.
blows my mind, but I'm having a great time with it because this year is going to be so darn special because that is the date that my first book is going to be published. I'm a collaborating author, and it's like, how much better can you celebrate a birthday?
Oh, that's amazing. Well, happy early birthday.
Thank you. And as far as how long I've been doing this, I would say that I started in 2016. So what we're talking about, almost 7.5 years, although I've always been dipping my toe into all of this because I wasn't always in the arts. I was in the corporate world. I was an IT sales exec for the first part of my career. All business, all corner office, all oriented to, the goal and the brass chain and all that. And then my baby was born. I had gotten married, and that first little baby was in my arms. And when I found out that they were going to take my entire pipeline away from me, and I'd have to start from scratch, which takes about a year to build up. And then there's a sweet little face looking up at me. It's like, okay, I never thought I would be a stay-at-home mom, but that's what I did for a while.
Wow. Okay, I have a big question before we go any deeper. I've met so many women doing this work and on interviewing on this podcast and on my other podcast. I've been in this space now for 10 years, and I find so many women our age go back to the arts. And I don't mean back professionally. They go into the arts often for the first time because they knew that they loved it and wanted it or were attracted to it or something early on. And then because of a narrative about what you should do to make a living and who knows what else people told you, they didn't. And I'm wondering if something like that happened in your life.
Well, yes. I was 3 years old putting on plays. I was writing, I was performing, I was doing all those things. But I also love business. And I come from a very business-oriented family. And it was, no. You're not going to go off and do that other. You're not going to be on stage. You're going to earn a living. And by the way, you have to be a triple threat. You've got to be gorgeous. You need to have a network, blah, blah, blah. So while I like to tease my parents saying, yeah, I'm going to be an actress and watch them freak out, I knew I loved the business world. And that's where I wanted to get started. And I found a way to be able to merge my two passions because once I got into tech sales and marketing, there's a lot of razzle dazzle to it. I'm talking about presentations and conferences and just general communications. The nice thing about now is that I've flipped it on its ear. So I'm focusing on all the razzle dazzle and the fun artistic stuff, but it's also a business. And unlike a lot of other people in the arts, I'm learning and I know how to apply my sales and my marketing. And I know what I need to do to make it a business and not just a hobby.
Oh, I love that. I really believe, so many of us think when we need to make some kind of a change or a transition, we think, oh my God, I have to start over. And I really believe we're not starting over. You've been on this path all along and you've got transferable skills because you're not just older, you're also wiser. And you have experience. I mean, we have so much experience at this age. Okay, so you're staying at home, you've got all this experience. Now, when did this idea come to you about diving in this way?
Well, my daughter, who is the youngest of 2 children, was very much like me, and she is just a natural born ham. I got her into musical theater at the age of 6, and she did that through 12 and took leads in a lot of very professional productions. And she began begging me, "Please, I wanna do film and TV." And I thought, "Oh, no, 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 no. School comes first, school comes first. Well, maybe nobody will take her. Fine, we'll look for an agent." Someone took her. Okay. But they were also looking for older people. Now, all throughout my corporate world, I used to kinda dive out of some of those meetings at IBM and some of those other dot-com stuff, and I just did a little bit of commercials. I did some TV and film, some print jobs along the way, but nothing intensely because work came first. So I dusted all that off. I showed it to the agent, and she said, "Great. I'm looking for people over 50. We need people over 50." And in fact, just on the side, I am now starting up a YouTube series just for actors over 50. And the first thing is, there are lots of opportunities out there. They want real people. They're not looking for gorgeous perfection. They want to see real people, and they're not just moms, dads, grandmas, and grandpas anymore. Some of them are pretty interesting and sometimes a bit wacky. And so there's no reason why you shouldn't pursue it. And honestly, my daughter would hate to hear it. She had one great role in a movie, but I've been a lot busier than she has. So, but she's
I have
moved on to
chills.
college and all that.
Oh my god, I'm so excited that you really not just are you happy doing what you're doing, but that you also know how to give back. And giving back with this is really just helping people to become more aware about what's possible. So many of
Yes.
us don't even we have no appreciation for what's possible, but you're seeing it right away. I just think this is such a beautiful story. You're just in there putting your daughter first, like all moms do, put the kids first, and you sniffed out an opportunity.
I was always looking for some business to run on the side. But you're right when you were talking about old skills are so transferable. We're not just one thing in life. And just because a dream is deferred doesn't mean it's denied. Maybe the time isn't right. So, out of that and the entrepreneurial interests I've always had, I even created a YouTube series which evolved into that chapter of that book I was just talking about how business people can become more comfortable and effective on camera themselves. Because, by the way, here are some professional tips I've learned as an actress. And I also know the business side, so this is how you can use them. And there's so
That's
many
great.
ways we can use our past. It's just
That is so great. Visibility is one of the issues that keeps coming up in terms of of an area that midlife women struggle with.
yes,
A lot of just we don't have the practice, and there's just not feeling great about how we look, our thoughts about aging that we may not even be aware of. But
yes.
many of us love that 10 times mirror, but not really.
You know what? It helps to see all those little wrinkles. On the other hand, you don't want to see those little wrinkles, but they're there anyways.
Well, and the tweezing, don't even get me started.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a whole nother conversation,
That's a
isn't it?
whole other episode. I love that. So again, other opportunities. So even being able to use your skills and experience to help people who aren't even in theater or in acting, but
Yes.
have to present and have to be in public and have to be on camera. I mean, Zoom, one thing the pandemic did was to really put an emphasis on staring at ourselves. Like, nobody, we didn't look at ourselves as much as we did during the pandemic if
No.
we had an online business. I remember noticing just how much I touched my face. At the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of awareness about hand washing and not touching your face. So Zoom is what showed me that I touched my face more than I thought I did. And so does everybody else. It's just fascinating. And then the filters came with Zoom. So then we could add lipstick. I have lipstick on right now on my Zoom filter.
Oh, well, it looks great. As long as you don't turn yourself into a potato. You did hear about that at the very
No,
beginning of all Zoom? Oh, yeah.
no,
There was a meeting, an office meeting, and this one woman was kind of bored, so she's playing around with all the filters and all that. She turned herself into Mrs. Potato Head, but she didn't know how to turn it off, and so people were cracking up. You had a potato talking the whole time.
that's
And
hilarious.
I'll also tell you, you gotta be careful because sometimes you don't understand when your camera is on or off. And early on, there were people who went to the bathroom while they were in a meeting and showed more than they expected.
Oh my god, I saw that. I bought a webcam with an actual, like, what do you call the little
A webcam cover?
a webcam cover, yeah,
Yeah,
because it's a
I made
visual reminder for you too. It's definitely safe, but I had somebody hop on a Zoom call a couple of weeks ago, and she had a goatee, and I'm looking at her,
oh,
I'm
okay.
like, I don't know, maybe she
Interesting
wanted
choice.
it, I didn't know, right? And I'm like, "I just wanted to ask, do you know you've got a goatee?" And she did not know she had a goatee. Her kid had borrowed her computer and had set up a filter. So it's pretty funny and scary. But anyway, I love that you're raising awareness on how to be more visible on camera. And I bet you do talk about Zoom. You must.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of it too is talking about some of the basic fears which tie into public speaking. The fear of being on camera. How do I look? How do I come across? It's the fear of, am I being judged? Am I being right? And then, of course, for women especially, although men are vain, don't think that they're not. Do I look too old? Do I look irrelevant? And a lot of what people don't realize is that most folks don't really care. The most thing that you have to focus on is your message. What is it that you're saying? What does the other person have to hear? What is it you're trying to share? And especially if any of your listeners are worried about AI, the big differentiator is the fact that we're human. We're emotional. We care. We connect with people. We connect with our message. And AI can't do that, at least not yet, and probably not for the foreseeable future.
That's a really interesting point. So tell me about rejection. Now, anybody I know who's in theater talks about rejection is shocked by how
Oh,
you
yes.
don't think you care, but you really do care. So what's that like for you being older and wiser and putting yourself in a situation where there is a lot of rejection?
There is a tremendous amount of rejection, which is one thing you worry about anytime you put your kid into it, because
Yes.
you worry that they're going to come away feeling like crap. Actually, it can build a much stronger, more resilient person. The nice thing about being older, though, is, at least in my case, maybe in yours, Susie, the older I get, the less I really care what people have to say or think. I know who I am. I'm more comfortable in my own skin. I compare myself to the way I was at age 30 or age 20 or younger. And the other part of being rejected is you're often never told if you even came close, because it's so true on any role, whether it's in front of the camera or behind the mic, whether you were the second choice or the top 10 or you're a total reject. And so people tend to always think the worst about themselves. Oh, they don't like me. I'll never get this. You have to learn how to think positively, because that comes across the way you project yourself, the way
Yes.
people see you. And so you just have to understand it's part of the business. Now, it helped that I used to be in sales, and there's always rejection in sales, and it is a numbers game. And especially when you're trying to find leads, let's say for your voiceover business, there are going to be a lot of no's or not right nows before you find somebody who says, yeah, as a matter of fact, I could use that. And it's very subjective. Anybody in the arts, and it doesn't matter if they're a musician, if they are a painter or an actress, what you like could be very different from what Tom, Dick, Harry, or Sally likes.
Yeah.
And what's to say what's good? And so it takes a bit of time and discipline and confidence in yourself to say, yeah, I'm always going to get better. I am going to be better today than I was yesterday. And tomorrow I'm going to be even better at what I do. But look, it may not be the right thing for you. And I'm not going to knock myself out. And I'm not going to try to be what I think you want, which is a major problem for any kind of an actor. Because most of the time, the casting directors are just begging, please give me a performance I can use. Give me a choice so I can take you with a few other people and show that I know what I'm doing. Because a lot of these casting directors are trying to bid for their next job. And so it's just as important for them to find somebody. So you might have people out there that are really rooting for you, and they don't want to see what you think they want, because oftentimes they don't know. They want to say, okay, this is the character. This is the narration. Bring the best version of you to it. Give me something other people can't hear or see. And honestly, it's fascinating, because I do some workout groups with other voiceover artists. I do classes. And I even have a friend over in the UK who has a podcast that's called How Do You Say That? To show how 3 different voice actors, all veterans, will have totally different interpretations. And they're all great. It's just a matter of like flavors. Am I in the mood for chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, or pistachio? It's all
Oh, that
subjective.
Yeah, that's so good. But it can be, I can see how it could be very easy to forget that it's subjective. It's not that you're bad, it's just a fit thing
Yes.
based on
And
some a whim or the director's vision of what's possible for them. Yeah, so good. Well, the other thing you kind of touched on is being at the beginning. So you're not at you really, on the one hand, you're on the right path and you have had other acting experiences in your life, but to like put your stake in the ground and go, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to
yes,
start putting myself out there. I'm going to start dealing with marketing. What's that like? Like marketing and social media is so different than it even was 10 years ago, right? So
oh,
how are
yeah.
you dealing with that?
Well, let's see, way back in the '80s and early '90s when I was dialing for dollars, I was literally dialing for dollars. And social media is a whole 'nother ball of wax. But you know what? Exercising the brain keeps us young. Memorizing those scripts keeps us young. And you have to be able to adapt to it. And you just have to know what your strengths are and be able to play into that. Now, tell me your question again, because I'm getting older and I forgot part of it.
You're relying on me to remember? Okay, no, it's about being at the beginner,
Oh,
being a
yes.
beginner again and
Yes,
marketing,
yes,
using
yes.
social media and marketing.
Yes. Now, this is very interesting. Um, when I was starting off in business, I wasn't as aware of myself as not having as much experience. I'm much more aware of it now because there are also people who've been doing what I'm doing for 40 years. The good part about that is that a lot of them might have already dropped out because they didn't make it and they're just tired. And so there are people like me saying, I'm here, I'm ready to play it. But I can take a look at somebody who's a 20, 30-year veteran and go, wow, I don't know if I'll ever get that good. It takes 10 years or so to really get to a very strong level in this field. You just have to say, I'm starting where I'm starting, because if I don't, in 10 years, I'll still be 10 years older. And what do I have to show for it? But you have to have a beginner mindset.
Yeah.
And that is, look, I come in with a lot of tools, but there are a lot of things I don't know. When I was first taken on by that on camera agent 7.5 years ago, I immediately started booking things. I go, well, oh, I'm hot stuff. Oh, I don't need any training. Then I hit a wall. And then it's like, oops, there's a lot I don't know. And I started training, which you never ever stop because you find different parts of yourself that can be expressed much more fully or more naturally. And the whole idea that less is more, especially on camera. You also have to learn how you can apply old skills in new ways, like with voiceover, with marketing. I do have agents and there are casting sites, but the majority comes from my own efforts. And it's a matter of going back and doing those things that I thought, oh, back in my techie days when I was doing this and I was an exec, that was beneath me. No, nothing is beneath you anymore. Laura, if you want your business, you got to go scrounge for it.
Yeah,
And so you
true.
find that you can find places like Upwork where you can hire a lead gen and you can train them how to do some of this stuff, but it's just on you. And you have to be able to adapt it to the new technology. So you have to know how to work with social media. You have to know how to be able to use Zoom. You can't be afraid to put yourself out there. But the best part of it all is you work with people of different generations. And I love it. I've got friends anywhere from the boomers all the way down to Gen Z. And you learn something different from each one of them.
Oh, I love that you said that. I interviewed somebody recently who was talking about that where it was a book called Design the Long Life You Love by
Mm.
Arshay Bissell. And it was really, really interesting because she had done some research and the idea was to have friends 9 years older and 9 years younger. And I've also heard this from relatives that once they retire, they're just going to doctor appointments and with a lot of older people, but they don't have the young people in their lives anymore. Younger, youngish, whatever young is, but younger than you at a different phase of life. And it is fun to have people of all ages in your life. I agree.
Not just that, but as you get older, your world does become smaller. Your
Mm.
friend base gets smaller. Friends die, they move away, or they just get old before their time. And there have been a few friendships where we just no longer were compatible because they didn't want to do anything anymore. They got burned out in their careers, or they just want to wait for the grandchild, or they just like to complain about stuff. That's not who I am. So you find who your internal age is. And I identify more, I don't know, 15, 20 years younger than I really am.
Yeah.
And consequently, it makes you feel younger. It makes you look younger and act younger. And people will respond to that because even the younger ones don't care so much how old you are on the outside. It's who you are on the inside. And most people are willing to learn and have a give and take from different folks. So you build a different type of family structure.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, the other thing I love talking about on this podcast is one of the more challenging things going on for midlife women entrepreneurs at this age is that there's some hiccups, and you described them so well in your application for the podcast, and one of them had to do with your husband being retired. So, can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that?
Okay, I don't know if I'll ever hear this, but yes, Alex, I am talking about you. Um, right before we started, you were telling me that in your coaching business that there are some people with very intense careers that burn out early or they have a midlife crisis. My husband is an orthopedic surgeon, and he certainly experienced that a long time ago. And so it was fine. You can explore this. He stayed in his field, but then he retired when the pandemic began. Well, the biggest problem is that he probably shouldn't have, because he was of the mindset that he could still do lots of different things. But then he's reconciling with the fact I'm now retired. So therefore, Laura, you should be retired too. And everything I like to do, I want you to come along with me on. And that includes all of a sudden all his doctor appointments. And I said, sweetie, I am not going to be that old couple that has nothing to do but sit in the waiting room and, doctor, tell me what's going on. I'm so worried. No, if there's something serious, that's one thing. Otherwise, sweetie, you are on your own. I have had to throw him out of my office when I am on calls, when I'm trying to get work done. I have in my voiceover studio a little sign outside that's really cool. It's electric. I could put messages on it, and it just has different colors. And I always put it on so he knows there's a voiceover recording going on. Leave me alone. And shh, it doesn't matter. He'll barge right on in. My kids know better. I got to talk to you. It is so important. Oh, you want ice cream for dessert? Okay.
Ugh, I know what you mean.
No.
I've heard of other people I've interviewed have also talked about this, that it's not just that you're not available, but also energetically you're gearing up when the other person is gearing down.
Yes, so
And
true.
right. So it's not just that you're not available with your snazzy sign. I might want one too. That sounds like a great sign. But yeah, energetically you're in a different space.
Yeah, I am finally going back to building up the business because I put all those professional ambitions on hold. And maybe I played that supportive wife, mother, and all that other stuff and doing everything else I was doing at the time. Because now he still expects me to do all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the laundry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But he wants to wind down. Sweetie, I have not been working 40 years just without a break. Now I am doing what I always wanted to do. And furthermore, I am showing my daughter that a woman can take time off as she needs to care for family members, to do something different, but still be able to create something amazing later on in life and to be able to do it successfully. And that's very important. So all this energy is coming out now. And we've had a conversation or two, and I've
Yeah.
gotten him to go back to work part-time on a freelance basis, which I think is good for him. But I think he's reluctantly understanding this. But you and I are not the only ones. I know
Yeah.
so many women who have had dynamic careers and now want to do something creative. They want to do something more personal. And their guys are just tired and they don't understand it. But
Yeah, I know it's a generalization, but a lot of times the men haven't emphasized social relationships as much as women have. So
no.
they don't have those friends. I know it's a sweeping generalization, but many don't have that friend base. Yeah, so I totally hear you. But the other thing that you mentioned in your notes is that work-life balance takes a little bit of a different adjustment. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, tend to get carried away.
Yes. Entrepreneurs are we like our work. That's
We
the thing,
love
right?
it. Yeah, now back in the mid-90s when I was able to work from home in sales and marketing, I loved it. And I could work all hours, and I did, because I'm basically a night owl. Now, when my kids were little, I had to shift all that. But now that I'm an empty nester, I am most productive when said husband goes to bed, and it's quiet and no interruptions, and I have to force myself to go to bed at 1 or 2 in the morning. But that does throw us off, because he tends to be much earlier in the day. He also wants me to be around more in the evening. And I am trying to find time that he gets the attention he needs, as well as the fact I can do my work, as well as all the other cooking, cleaning, and other stuff he refuses to do. It is a juggling act. And I do try to be cognizant, but there are certain times I tell him, I've got a deadline. I'm doing this. Love you. Don't bother me.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Okay. Another thing that you mentioned, I'm just thinking about myself on that last question because I also I never was a night owl until I became an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I never was a night owl. I was always in bed by 11. And like you, it's the same thing that you said. It's uninterrupted time. But what's so interesting is that when I think about it, that thinking became habitual when I had babies. When, the babies, they're the only real time that was yours was, that you weren't forcing yourself to take a nap when they were napping was at night when there was a backup and whatever. And I know that it's not really true that I don't have uninterrupted time during the day, but a lot of times, sometimes it is because my dog tends to interrupt me. But I do tend to think, I keep thinking that way. And I'm very aware one of my goals right now, two goals, drink more water, get more sleep. And I'm finding it so challenging to overcome that urge to stay up late when there really is nobody around to bother me. So it's true that they're not around to bother me, but it's not completely true that anybody's interrupting me during the day.
And
So I find it fascinating.
I totally get that. I think about it too, because sometimes I got a lot of energy and it's a pretty day out. I want to take a walk, or this is the right time for me to go and pot those plants. So I'm going to take a break. If I wanted to, I'm sure I could just close it all off and focus on it, but it's more difficult. The other thing is, it's often true that these things, and I'm holding up my cell phone, can
Yes.
be big interrupters because now it's hard to break that conditioning of, oh, somebody's trying to get a hold of me. Oop, there's a text message. And so it's been found that if you could just block it off, just turn it off for a good, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, 40 minutes at a time, you can get a lot more done. Because it takes a while to shift into the work time and it takes time to get out of it. And if you're constantly being interrupted, you're not getting that deep creative process.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. There's that switch tasking that happens. So it's not really multitasking, it's actually switch tasking. And you can't focus as much. You're easily distracted. I mean, if there's a dog rescue video, forget it. Like I'm sucked in immediately. I can't stay away from those. It's so true. So it really does take, I don't know, kind of what I'm calling a midlife operating system. It takes a shift and a creation of something that I think is really a midlife operating system. We can't run our lives and our businesses the way we grew up thinking we could at this age and stage of life. It's very different.
It is
So,
different. And sometimes we just have to deal with those planned interruptions. I know that if I am going to be getting any kind of a text or an email from an agent, I have to respond right away. If I get something from a voiceover client, especially, I need to respond right away. And that's another reason to work later on. But it is hard to break old habits. And as you
yeah.
said, it's very different from when we used to just put on our power suits, go to the office, and we weren't really bothered for however hours we were there.
Oh my God. I know. I'm thinking that power suit. It was a suit. When I got my first job in 1989, my first professional job out of grad school, I'm like, I need a suit. I was so poor. Like I graduated with nothing. I had to borrow money from friends to move into the city and get my first apartment and buy my first two suits.
Yes,
And one was blue, kind of linen-esque and navy, and the other one was herringbone. And I needed pantyhose, of course.
of course.
And I
The
had black
bumps.
patent leather pumps. Oh my God, I thought I was the coolest ever.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I can't, like, nobody dresses like that anymore. Maybe people do in corporate. I don't know. I haven't
No,
been
no,
part
no,
of that
no.
world.
They don't. My son works in private equity. They don't. I mean, when I started in the work world in 81, you had, of course, wear the pantyhose and all that with the suits. And you had, at that time, women had to look like men. So they either wore ties or big floppy bows all the way up to the neck. Then
Yes.
you had the LA Law influence with Susan Day's character, which I love. It was just sort of like a V-neck and it was soft and all that. And of course, the shoulder pads. We all
Oh,
had our
yeah.
shoulder pads. Um, and then we got into the power suits but I had my red power suit and I had my blue one. And, I had that herringbone as well. And, the funny thing is when I had to help my daughter who's in business school now get her business casual wardrobe, which is about as formal as you get.
Hmm.
Nice slacks, a nice blouse, and more of like a deconstructed jacket.
Hmm.
And that's really all you need.
Wow. I don't get out much. I haven't shopped for clothes in so long. I have some photos. I have a photo shoot coming up. And I said to the photographer, I said, I'm going to have to leave my house. I'm going to have to actually go and think carefully about a few pieces that I need. Okay, so definitely some midlife hiccups, and I really related to a lot of what you said, and I know people listening do too, for sure. So tell us a little bit about what you want next in your business.
Well, to grow it. I'm loving everything that's going on. With my voiceovers, I would love to be able to do a few national commercials. I would love to be able to have more regular clients for their narration or their training videos. Creatively, I'm looking at getting into video games. I mean, it would make sense being an actress to do all that, but I haven't explored that. I just sort of focused on the corporate world and the commercial world. Now I'm going to move into that. On camera, it's just like bigger and better roles. I want to be the big fish in the smaller pond regionally. And I'm fortunate being in Atlanta, there's a lot of film and TV here.
Oh,
Although, because of the writer's strike, which just started, things have been very slow and will continue to be slow for a while. But of course, getting into more shows, more TV, more commercials. I did a really fun commercial back in January. Got to play a wild and wacky mom. And playing those kind of characters that just are not your run-of-the-mill boring mom and dad. They're just so much fun.
oh, that's great. Can you even imagine, like, 20 years ago, knowing that you'd be doing this?
Uh, no, it was a dream. It was something, but I've always thought of myself when I'm on my deathbed many, many years from now. I don't want to have any regrets saying I was
Exactly.
afraid to. They call it a bucket list. I always wanted to do acting. I want to see what I can do. Now, when you start up in your 50s, like I did, you're probably not going to be a major star and you're not going to be the big lead. But you know what? That's okay. Sometimes you just want to be on as many different projects as possible and have fun roles and have a great time. The nice thing about starting later in life is that I don't need to do it for a living. So I don't have to be waiting the tables like so many others. It is a luxury, so I can enjoy this. Um,
I love that. That is great perspective. It really is.
yeah,
The other thing I noticed that, well, you mentioned it right at the beginning too, that you have an opportunity to be in this cool book project. Tell us a little bit about
yes.
that.
Oh, thank you. It's called The Most Amazing Marketing Book Ever. I've been getting very involved with LinkedIn because that is the way to find a lot of business,
Right.
customers, relationships, and so forth. And through some of the people there, I was introduced to Mark Schaefer, who is a very well-known marketing strategist and futurist. He's been a TED talker. He's got 6 to 8 best-selling books, and he is very well known in this particular area. He said, I always want to do a collaborative effort. I would like to help other people and who are experts in their own fields. And so he brought together the community that he had on Discord, because I was curious about Web3 and all the latest and greatest in AI too.
Look at you.
Yeah. My little fingers, I'm like a spider getting into everything. Um, but he said, I am going to want to write something for marketing today and tomorrow. Traditional marketing like emails, social media, and the future. AI, metaverse, Web3, all that other stuff. Here are the topics. Who knows something about this that you can talk about that people can't find just from Googling? And I went like, well, I know video and I can talk about YouTube. And so he said, fine, then that's your chapter. And it's been wonderful. So what I do is I take, each of us was tasked to give 10 top tips, 5 on how to become more comfortable and effective on camera. So people stop scrolling past your videos. You've got less than a second, people, to catch people's attention because boom, they're gone. And you have to give them a lot of value in a very short time. Excuse me. The other part was, how do you use something like YouTube or any social media to leverage your presence? Well, you got SEO, you got keywords, there's a way of titling it. There are different subject matters you do. So I talked about my top 10 tips for that. And so the book is coming out. The paperback will be published on June 8th. And then the Kindle and the audiobook version will come out on May 17th. And of course, I was all up there for doing audiobooks. I mean, I've done chapters before and other
I was
things.
just saying audiobooks, easy peasy for you.
Yeah. So everybody's saying, well, I'm in my clothes closet and I'm doing this or that. People, let me give you a few tips. Try A, try B, if not C. Help. Let me know if you need any help. But everybody got it together and they have an audio engineer putting it all together. And then Mark Schaefer's whole team of publications, they're getting everything together and marketed. Yesterday, I just got a bunch of note cards and stickers to send out about it. So it's been ideal. I get to be the creative, writing what I'm doing my audio version, and they get to do all the hard work. So,
That's beautiful, beautiful. I really appreciate what you said too about starting something late. It is a luxury because you are in a position where you have some flexibility around income right now. Not everybody's in the same position, but you are really very grateful that
yes,
you can, really go into it and not worry so much about certain targets, financial
yes.
targets.
And let me
Yeah.
tell you about this. That goes along with that attitude of gratitude. I know a fellow here in Atlanta. His name is Charles Green. He was out in LA trying to make it as an actor in his 20s. Didn't click. He went into the corporate world, became a marketing executive, retired. He decided after he retired to get back into this acting thing. He is now one of the busiest actors in the entire Southeast. He is sharing screen time with, he just put down Natalie Portman. And at these festivals, he's on TV shows. He's there, there, there. It's like he finally aged into his roles. And it's
Wow.
incredible. You cannot be afraid of pursuing what you want because otherwise you're just going to have regrets. And is that really
Yeah,
what you want your life to be about? Me,
exactly.
yeah,
Well,
I wanted,
you mentioned that at the beginning, and one of the most common regrets people have is that they didn't allow themselves to be happier. And that's why I asked you
yes,
that original question at the beginning. Was this something that you were interested in when you were very young? So I love in your case, it's not like you completely ruled it out, but you ruled it out for the time being, and now it's certainly coming back. And thank goodness you had that interesting experience with your daughter, and the agent opened the door, the idea of
yes.
possibility. And you were like, obviously it wasn't too deep in your brain or you wouldn't have jumped right on it. You jumped right on it and you saw the possibility like pretty much immediately.
Well, the time was right. You
Yeah.
know what? And you might have these dreams of what you want to do, but they're not just thrown out. They're just put on the back burner.
Yeah.
And then, like anything else, you move things around
Yeah.
and
It's
take a
so good.
chance. And you find
It,
out there are more people that are going to say yes than you think.
that's true too. If you aren't as worried about visibility and if you can, if you get all your ducks in a row and you understand that you're a beginner and you're understanding that it's a numbers game and
Hmm.
you get over yourself in terms of visibility and stuff like that. Yeah, I
And pay it
agree.
forward. Pay it forward.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, and, so that's why it's so wonderful talking to people on podcasts, on webinars. I've been presenting at conferences, business meetings, now writing the book. We'll see where that goes. Consulting and helping people if they're trying to get more comfortable on camera, pursuing these very creative options. And it makes for a full life. And
Yeah.
especially the other thing when you're older, you also realize you don't have an infinite amount of time. For example, my parents are, 23, 24 years older than I am. And they are having issues. My mother now has Parkinson's,
Mm.
and they're very much aware that there's so much time remaining. And I'll tell you, I look back 23, 24 years when my son was little, it doesn't seem that long ago.
Oh
So
no.
there's a little fire under me. I'm going to
Yeah.
make the most of the time I have because we just never know.
Yeah, it's true. There is a serious time sensitivity, almost an urgency that a lot of us experience as we start thinking about what is the impact I want to have? What's the legacy? What are the contributions? What are the
Yes.
skills? What do I want to enjoy personally? All of that. Well, Laura, you've given us so much to think about, and it's just so much fun to see you like
Thank you.
diving into what you've always known that you loved. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, go to my website. It's lauradoman.com. You can also see everything I've got up on YouTube, which might help anybody who wants to get to know more about all this stuff at Laura Doman and LinkedIn, Laura Doman. So I'm pretty consistent.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's excellent. Thank you so much, Laura. Thanks for taking the time from your day, showing me your cool studio in the background, all of that. I just really appreciate just how ready you were to dive in. Like that really comes across because just because you have a passion doesn't mean you're going to go for it. And just because you're ready to go for it doesn't mean you're going to identify the thing it is that you're really passionate about. So for all of that to come together, at this age and stage is a beautiful thing. I totally love what you're doing. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you, Suzy. It's been wonderful to be with you.
All right, that is it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We would love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick, before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with the show and are finally ready to make some changes to regret-proof your life, I want to invite you to apply for the Women in the Middle Academy. It's my transformational midlife group coaching program to help you get clear about what's getting in your way so you can get on with the good stuff. Head over to www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com. Talk soon.